Hello guys, thank you for clicking on this video. Today I'm going to go over Active Directory domain services. The purpose of Active Directory is to lock down what users can do on a network. Like you can set boundaries so people can't right click, change backgrounds, create folders, etc. Active Directory lets you manage printers, files, and user accounts. So let's talk about domain controllers first. Um, so domain controller controls Active Directory, just like an Exchange. Microsoft Exchange controls email services, and a Samba server is a file server. Domain controllers are Active Directory servers. Domain controller is what stores all the information for the user accounts and the computer accounts in Active Directory. This is what you add to domain controller, which is user accounts and computer accounts. User accounts and computer accounts are added into the database for the domain controller. When you add into the database, you're adding info to what is called a schema. Schema is the database, the scheme for how data is stored in a domain controller, what type of info about the user accounts and computer accounts are stored in the domain controller database. The schema states for user accounts there will be a UN password, email, office number. For computer account, it will have the SID, computer name, etc. Schema is the type of data stored for user accounts and computer accounts in Active Directory. Schema is very powerful. Schema is extendable, and you can add data to it afterwards. AD security groups who has access to what resources on a network. That's another part of Active Directory. You have security groups, and you can add people to those groups to give them permission to certain resources on a network. You can create something called groups in Active Directory. In those groups, you can give access to special folders, printers, etc. Let's say the accounting team wants to access a particular folder or access a website. You can put the account person into the group that you created for that folder, and then they will be able to see it. So let's talk about organizational units in Active Directory. Organizational units are created for administration purposes. So as you can see on the screen, you can create an organizational unit. You can add different people into this and lock it down by adding different properties or different permissions onto the organizational unit. Let's move on to domains. Domain. Domains. A domain controller creates what is called a domain. Domain controllers contains the user and computers. The users are tied to the domain controller domain, and so is the computers. So the domain is all the users and computers accounts that are tied to the domain controller Active Directory domain services domain. Domains are used for administrative purposes. Let's talk about tree, domains, and forests. So subdomains are created so the main domain is affected. With subdomains, it has its own domain controllers in domain. For example, if you have something like google.com, they can have a subdomain named europe.google.com. The reason why subdomains are created is because the main domain, or let's say something like google.com, wants all the subdomains to have access to a schema. With subdomains, you can lock it down and make it more secure. If you add another subdomain to the main domain, let's say you want to add asia.google.com, now you have something called a transitive trust, a two-way implicit trust. So both google.com and its subdomains called europe.google.com and asia.google.com trust each other. So it works like since Europe and Asia are the subdomain of google.com, they also trust each other. So what trust means is that an employee from google.com can go to europe.google.com. Since they are part of google.com, europe.google.com can give it permission on its domain to files and folders, etc. What is a tree? A tree is when you add subdomains to a main domain. See if there's a diagram. Tree. There it is. That's a tree domain. So, what's a forest? A forest is when you connect two domains together through explicit trust. One-way implicit trust. So, admins from, let's just say, Nokia can give permission to employees from google.com. Permission such as like to do stuff within the environment, like give access to files and folders in the Nokia.com domain. You don't need to create user accounts or computer accounts. When you connect different domains, you create one-way explicit trust because each domain has different schemas. Note that when you create trees, you create two-way explicit trust. When you connect domains together, you create a one-way explicit trust. When you add the domains of, let's say, different companies, if one buys the other, then that becomes a forest. Thank you for watching this video, and I hope I've explained everything, and I hope that you've understood something, learned something about Active Directory domain services. I try my best to explain things properly. Please don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll be back shortly with another video. Thank you for watching. Thank you. Bye.